The MCU is about to get a little bit bigger. The X-Men are coming, and they'll be here before we know it. But what villains can match the hype? Well, let's find out. Welcome to A Marvelous Life. I'm Nashology, and today, we're asking a pretty difficult question. What villains are capable enough to usher in the X-Men into the MCU? Over the years, we've had our fair share of villains throughout the Fox universe and beyond. And while some of them have been portrayed fantastically, others have been, less inspired. And with many incredible villains to choose from in the comic world, Kevin Feige really has his pick of the litter. And this will be very important, because when the X-Men enter the MCU, greatness will be expected. And while Fox got away with churning out mediocre villains before, because, well, the entire world is in love with Michael Fassbender,
I love you.
They won't be able to get away with that here. So, with hundreds of X-villains to choose from, who are the best bets moving forward? Let's take a look.
Number 3, Emma Frost.
There are many reasons why Emma Frost would be an awesome first choice for an X-Men villain. For those of you not familiar with her, Emma began her Marvel journey as a villain known as the White Queen. She was known for her pretty conservative attire and man-eater attitude. She used her intense sexuality as a narrative device to empower herself and disarm any notions of physical superiority. But don't let her looks fool you. Emma is the epitome of don't judge a book by its cover. Calling her a formidable antagonist is doing crazy disservice to her character. She's quite literally one of the most powerful mutants on the planet, with telepathy skills that could probably rival Charles Xavier's. Sure, she's no Jean Grey, but she's an Omega-class mutant, and many people in the Marvel Universe couldn't touch her anyways. Emma presents a threat that is just as cerebral as Doctor Strange. And we all know and love the action scenes found when Doctor Strange is in the question. Well, when Emma Frost gets a hold of your mind, you can only imagine the CGI possibilities from there. So why would Emma Frost make a great first X-Men villain? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Who doesn't love a good redemption story? Look at Loki, for example. He started as a simple Thor villain and evolved into a complex character that won over the hearts of millions of people. So much so that even his comic book history changed to reflect this. And we know that Emma is not only going to be a mainstay on the X roster, but let's be honest, she'll sell a lot of tickets. Emma is not a straightforward villain, just as Loki wasn't, and just like Killmonger wasn't. Her depth, intelligence, and complexity make her an engaging villain who will transcend the typical black and white portrayals that have plagued the MCU as of late. She's a villain because the world simply made her that way. Mutant persecution shapes her worldview, something the audience can get behind. From here, she can evolve and develop into one of the X-Men's leading roles. Long-term character development should be at the forefront of the MCU moving forward because this is how we develop strong connections with our heroes. Her journey from antagonist to ally has the potential to captivate audiences, adding a rich and compelling narrative to the X-Men's integration into the MCU. This is why Emma Frost is one of the best choices moving forward.
Number 2, Bastion.
Yep, you heard that right. This is a villain most of you have never heard of, but he's an excellent choice for many reasons. A common denominator in X-Men media is the strained relations between human and mutant. The mutants want nothing more than to be accepted in society, whereas the humans both hate and fear mutants. Bastion would be a compelling choice for an X-Men villain because he embodies the struggle between mutants and humans. He wants them all dead, men, women, and children, and he'll stop at nothing to achieve this goal. After rising high within the government, Bastion convinces the US president to give the go-ahead for Operation Zero Tolerance, a nationwide initiative that will end the mutant problem for good. Bastion's hate for the mutants is paramount. He lives and breathes for their extinction. Operation Zero Tolerance is a huge deal in the comics. It calls for the systematic destruction of every mutant in America under the pretense that mutants are way too powerful to coexist with humans. Although thematically controversial, this narrative would paint the horrors of systematic destruction in a new light. The fear of others could be our undoing, the destruction of society as we know it. Bastion represents the worst of humanity, and he chases their eradication with a religious zeal. Not too unlike William Stryker, the big bad from the second X-Men film, who is responsible for Logan's adamantium transformation. Now, in the comics, it's revealed that Bastion isn't a human after all. In fact, he's an amalgamation of an alternate universe Nimrod unit with a highly advanced master mold. Okay, let's try that again. It's revealed that Bastion isn't a human after all. In fact, he's an android that's programmed with a mutant-killing directive. Yeah, that's better. The MCU can decide to take Bastion in one of two ways. Either go the android route, sparing humans the responsibility of Operation Zero Tolerance, or keep Bastion human, setting up the conflict for a future war between humans and mutants. Hey, did someone say Avengers vs. X-Men? Both routes have their advantages and ultimately depend on the future direction of the MCU. But my guess is Feige won't risk painting the human species as a bunch of prejudiced assholes, so they'll likely go to the android route instead. Either way, Bastion would be an incredible choice for an X-Men villain. He would offer a blend of high-stakes action, deep thematic content, and the opportunity to actually explore complex societal issues. But hey, what do I know? Maybe they'll just give us more garbage. Before we reach our number one spot, let's look at two examples of villains who would be god-awful choices for the MCU. Undoubtedly, one of the greatest X-Men characters in the world, Magneto is an absolute force to be reckoned with. In the first few X-Men movies, Ian McKellen plays the brooding German to perfection, effortlessly capturing his antagonistic relationship with humans. And from First Class onwards, Michael Fassbender produces one of the greatest displays of acting in the superhero genre, expertly exhibiting his fundamental distrust for humans and his deep-seated resentment towards human oppression. An incredible character, absolutely, but one we should avoid in the villainous role. Besides, other than a few standout moments in the comics, Magneto has essentially been on the good side for the last 20+ years. A fact most non-comic readers don't seem to know. He belongs on the X-Men, not against them. That being said, I fully endorse having Magneto in the MCU. But he should take a role similar to that within the Krakoan era, a role of wisdom and management, looking over the mutants, not fighting against them. His warrior tendencies should be kept at bay, coming out only in dire situations. We need to avoid audience fatigue, and therefore, the MCU should explore new villains to avoid repetitive storytelling. And speaking of repetitive storytelling, overexposure and repetition. Two words that greatly summarize Jean Grey's journey throughout Marvel's cinematic endeavors. The adaptation of the Dark Phoenix saga has been tried multiple times, each to a resounding defeat. We're sick and tired of Jean Grey. She's an incredible character in the comics, with powers that are second to none. But bringing back Jean's dark run-in with the Phoenix Force would be both lazy writing and a missed opportunity to explore any of the other X-Men villains in the comics. She's had her time in the spotlight, and that time has run out. Lack of innovation is not a step in the right direction. It is absolutely time for the Phoenix to be put to rest.
Number 1. Mr. Sinister.
Comic book fans, you probably saw this coming. Everyone else? Better listen up. Complex motivations, insane level of narcissism, and probably the single most flamboyant villain in the Marvel Universe. There's not many characters that can captivate an audience like Mr. Sinister. He is the perfect villain for the X-Men's debut. Nathaniel Essex is a 19th century human scientist whose obsession with evolution and genetics leads him to the Egyptian mutant Apocalypse, who transforms Essex into the deadly being known as Mr. Sinister. His fascination with genetics opens the door to many interesting storylines. Maybe he wants to turn the entire human species into mutants. Maybe he just wants to turn the mutants into something more. The possibilities are endless. Having Mr. Sinister directly attack humans could be a way for the X-Men to offer their aid to the people who hate and fear them most. Or maybe the world will perceive Mr. Sinister's attack as a mutant threat against humanity, further advancing the conflicts between the two subspecies, which will no doubt get the Avengers' attention. And he has a lot of different powers to play with, any of which could be used in the MCU. He has precognitive powers that allow him to see the future, the ability to shapeshift on a cellular level just like Mystique, a crazy healing factor just like Wolverine, and an expert genetic manipulator, meaning he can take the DNA of other mutants and either add it to his own or use it to create other mutants. And for those of you not in the know, cloning is a massive part of Mr. Sinister's story. In fact, there has been quite literally thousands of Mr. Sinister clones in the comics. He even created a city of these clones. So the CGI department of Marvel Studios will definitely have their hands full. To make this a memorable villain, he'll need massive charisma, a sort of charm, and an evil outlook on the world that almost comes off as whimsical. Maybe not unlike Raul Silva, the villain from Skyfall. He won't be shades of grey, and the audience will definitely not relate to him. But if he's funny, charming, and a joy to watch, it'll be worth the journey. Alright, those are my top picks for the X-Men villains that should be integrated into the MCU. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know who you think will be the very first villain to showcase. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more MCU content. Till next time, I'm Nashology, and this is A Marvelous Life.